Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to Snapshot 23W14A, something like that. Though most of the features we'll be looking at came from the first snapshot. My intention is to get caught up with all of the features that have been happening and that I've been observing closely yet not had the chance to broadcast anything about until now. Haha! So we're going to start with the simple changes and revel in the fact that we've not got just one but two new wood types. The cherry is an interesting one. I made a couple of actual builds using palettes primarily based upon these new wood types, and I'd say the bamboo one went considerably better, and I think it's down to the bamboo mosaic, the only wood type where you've got a similar, I suppose, a plank equivalent, which is an identical colour scheme but a different enough texture to stand out. We'll delve into that more seriously in just a moment, he says, throwing himself off a cliff. I thought I'd collect all the blocks together, and that helped me to pick the palette when it came time to build the things that I wanted to. And it means that you get a handy look at everything that these new block stroke tree types have to offer, including the great variation you can get in just bamboo and in and as of itself. I'm sure one could do something interesting with these, especially given they're off-center. But bamboo's been around for a while. I'm kind of looking back, and while we're marrying up a bit of looking back and looking forward, copper has been given a new use, the brush, which is a vital part of archaeology and something I'm looking forward to delving into in this world in survival mode, once I've covered the features I feel it's necessary to blitz through and create. What is particularly noteworthy, in my opinion, is our ability to make bamboo blocks now and use those blocks for wood type agnostic recipes, because that completely changes up the kind of material costs for things like chests, which generally one wants an awful lot of. And I'm going, without making a bold assumption, can it be used in barrels too? So this rather shakes up material costs, which is jolly interesting. These shiny new things will become relevant later on as we explore. So let's have a closer look at what archaeology has on offer here at Testificate's Emporium of Old. For those who don't know, Testificate is the name given to villagers, or it was. I don't know how many people actually refer to the villagers as Testificates these days. When they were first added, above their head, much like a player name, would appear the word Testificate. Curious thing. I'd love to get to the bottom of where that came from. I'm sure there's a wonderful story out there somewhere. But anyway, that's why Testificate exists. And here at Testificate's Emporium of Old, we have some of the things that you can dig up out of suspicious sand, the main source out in the world of archaeological goodies. I have been a bit cheeky. While I'll be moving into survival, I did use commands to locate trail ruins, which we will delve into firsthand with a shovel of materials for which I've dug out of the very earth itself. Something to look forward to. One of the main items that one can procure are these pot shards, and pot shards can be crafted together with bricks if you don't have four to make a pot, funnily enough. And the traditional flower pot that we know fits quite snugly into the top, and thanks to a slight change in the texture, the pots no longer Z fight with one another. Pot shards, there were only the four of them. The first snapshot that we saw, the first main snapshot, we were given another 16, so here I've displayed all 20. Standard admirer moment. Right, that's all the admiring I need to do. Onward and upward. Onto the new signs, methinks. So here we see a non-conventional sign type. Here's the conventional signs that we know and do we love? They were certainly useful, but only in as much as they were only way to do certain things. Record messages. An astute observation. And once upon a time, this was it. You've made your message, and the only way to edit it was to break the sign down. But no longer. We can go in and edit the message. Yes, I hope so too. Moreover, one can even edit the rear side of signs, which is handy. though not nearly as interesting as the new sign type, which can come in three slightly different forms. The that with a crossbar to support it, that with the chains going straight up into a full block, or where the chains come together for signs if they happen to be oriented at right angles, or hanging from the bottom of lanterns, or indeed the bottom of fence posts. But yes, it would rather appear that Testificate has a rival, an emporium of even older. Indeed, quasi-lore-wise, the oldest thing other than the world itself. Minecraft's first dinosaur, the sniffer, which come in these handy little placeable eggs, rather unlike the spawn eggs that we're used to. I personally quite like the design in how it differentiates it from regular spawn eggs, but I can understand why some people think it looks un-Minecrafty. And these sniffers, they will go out into the world and they will dig up the seeds for these interesting primordial flowers, which it does feel like they missed a trick, given that this one is called the torch flower, that these interesting flowers can't have some sort of use or some sort of function. You know, maybe they could glow or something. But maybe they're saving that for a future update, because it does seem off and on a little bit. Some features from previous updates get kind of, in some way, shape, or form, incorporated to the next more and more as I've seen things go on, like a copper being integrated into other updates down the line, and arguably desert wells too, which is possibly one of the longest gaps between a feature's implementation and a purpose being given to it, seeing as desert wells are another place we can now discover suspicious sand. As we've placed these sniffer eggs on blocks of moss, they only hatch in 10 minutes rather than the usual 20 minutes, which is a full day-night cycle. Just to wrap up the exciting sign features that we've seen so far, as well as being able to retrospectively edit signs and write on both sides, isn't it indeed? But these signs, we can handily dye different colours on either side as to our whim, and even imbue with glow ink to make it that bit bolder, which is definitely necessary in this case. Blimey. Much better. And I thought I'd do things in this fashion because I've seen a few people pointing out what a nice cat walkway these signs make when put together. I can imagine some kind of bandit path hidden throughout a town using these. Swiftly on to the houses that I've gone and made. Going to talk about cherry first because my initial attempt involved a house entirely made out of cherry blocks, and let me tell you, a bright pink house is a real eyesore. As you could probably tell, it's not hugely different. I just used mangrove wood. I thought it fitting, seeing as this only came out in the last update, the wild update. It's jolly fortunate that it fits in. I do rather forget how loud campfires are. They maybe don't make quite as good a half fire as just simply lighting a block of netherrack that will burn forever. Usually what happens with my stairs is something like this, where I have to utilise trapdoors as part of the floor so one doesn't hit one's head so severely. Moving to my preferred house. I've done my best to show how handy the bamboo mosaic block is at creating a trim, the kind of thing that I've seen people put on their roofs to kind of give it a bit of texture around the outside using a different block. It's nice that there is one within the bamboo palette. Let me just shed a little bit of light on the situation. It is nice that there is one within the bamboo palette that fits the bill. Again, not sticking perfectly to a rule of using only bamboo for detailing. Funnily enough, I do think it would be an exercise in futility. Herein we see another actual feature, not the traditional bookshelves that we know, but the chiseled bookshelf, where we can stack fewer books ultimately than we could in a chest, but they're a nice decorative addition and somewhere to put written books or enchanting books if we so feel. And something I thought would be interesting is if placing enchanting books in chisel bookshelves around the outside of an enchantment table then resulted in a higher likelihood of that particular enchantment showing up on the table when you want it to, given that they don't actually add anything to the enchantment power. Onto the darker side of town, where hopefully, yes, the sniffer eggs have hatched. Before we get to enjoy these lovely lads, I'm just going to throw myself into a deep dark hole and tell you all about the new skulk. So, the skulk sensor that we all know and may or may not be used to detects any sound whatsoever, be it walking, jumping, throwing something on the ground. It's all picked up by the regular skulk sensor. However, each of those actions emits a sound of a different frequency. And this new block, the calibrated skulk sensor, can pick up particular frequencies or a particular frequency depending on how you calibrate it, which is done in its easiest fashion by feeding a comparator out of a lectern with a written book with a number of pages. There are actually up to 15 frequencies, but we don't need all of those here. If you want to have a look at a video that really goes into depth on this stuff, have a look at Mumbo Jumbo because he made a device that essentially stores the sound of each frequency, and so all 15 frequencies are accounted for and then can be sent off along a single line of redstone using these amethyst blocks, as amethyst now transmits the specific resonated note by a calibrated skulk sensor. So just to demonstrate, let's bring this down to 2. Yes. I don't know quite what went on up there to activate it. You can see the problem now, demonstrating things like this with sniffers overhead. My temptation is to go out there and slay them, but nah, that's a bit much, eh? Very simply, and I can prove this with wool occlusion, I set this to 2. So this should now pick up the sound of somebody jumping, that frequency. Yes, and it's then able to send that onto that one. And as you see, as soon as I remove this because of the wool occlusion, even though I would be close enough otherwise, it does not. And as soon as I'm out of the wool occlusion, it picks me up. These calibrated skulk sensors actually have a longer range than the regular skulk sensor, which is pretty nifty. Out of the dark room. Oh, much nicer out here. I do believe that brings us to the end of everything I wanted to cover in creative, so I've emptied my inventory. Let's pretend that I've just appeared in this world. So it will be daytime, and I think I'm going to punch a tree down. Survival time. Oh, I do have enchantment levels, but I don't see myself enchanting anything. Oh, so let's at least have a quick little look at the sniffer baby. I don't think they will dig seeds out like the adults do. I think we've got to wait for that. I might even need to spawn in more for that behaviour to be exhibited, because they don't do it all too frequently. As I'm right here by this oak tree, I am going to bring it down and make good use of it. Back into the village in search of foodstuffs, or indeed anything useful. Now, I think I said something erroneously in my pilot episode of the Let's Play, that saddles spawned in leatherworkers' houses. They may well do, for all I know, but it was actually... Oh, he says going into a leatherworker's house. It's actually not leatherworkers' houses that saddles appear in. It is blacksmith houses. I'm not going to lie. This is the first world that I opened up, and the temptation was, of course, to use it because it's such a good starting point. You've got this lovely valley and the lovely new cherry biome over there, which I could specifically showcase, but you know what? We've got a nice view to it over here. And a lot of these features in this update are best showcased in survival rather than quickly hashed out in creative. I thought I'd do those that I thought it would be harder to find out in the world. There we go. There's my inventory at least partly organised. What else can I find to chow down upon on my travels? A load of carrots, apparently, but they're not quite as efficient as. Okay, this is what I hope to find. There we go. And another tree for me. Oh, and a flower, apparently. I know what I haven't done yet. I haven't set it to hard. And now that I've done all of it, no, I'm not going to be foolish enough to lock the difficulty. That would be particularly foolhardy of me. There we go. No wonder my hunger wasn't going down. Right, we have such wondrous things as donkeys. Oh, how I want a donkey in my survival world. It is considerably harder to get the materials for a bundle. A pack mule is going to be reasonably invaluable. I do have some wood, just for the purposes of making a chest. Funnily enough, as we were talking about those earlier, and how their material cost has been completely shaken up by the addition of bamboo. There you go. And away we ride. In completely the wrong direction, thinking about it. Back I go, because that looks like a nice, inviting cave, and probably completely safe, and not filled with things that want to kill me at all. Oh no, I'll be just fine in there. Yes, just pushing a donkey over a river, because apparently they can't swim when you're on their back, which, I suppose, yeah, I probably do weigh a fair bit. Look at me. I'm a very chunky square boy. To the cave mouth. That is not the cave mouth. That is the cave mouth. Okay. More iron, please. Actually, not iron. Thinking about it, it is copper that I want. I hope you're going to stick around, because I don't want to lose you. Or indeed, my gubbins. Blooming heck. You alright, mate? Here, have an apple. I don't know if you can see, because I sure can't, in spite of my brightness settings being exactly what I want them to be, but that was the copper that I sorely needed right at the entrance, which I'm relieved about. Okay, and the majority of my gubbins down there for the time being. Should be easy enough to find them again by the cave, unless, they've gone into the cave. Didn't think about that. Well, if that is where the donkey's gone, then stuff 'em, because I need to showcase the Cherry Grove biome in all of its luscious pink glory, and I didn't explain the crafting recipe for pots. Let's take in the view. Oh, yes. Very simply, eh, 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 and you can substitute the bricks for any pot shards that you might have. And that's what allows you to determine the orientation of each of those particular faces. Oh, a room another portal I've not noticed. I'm not going to worry about that. Yeah. Anyway, sidetrack aside, the devs really pull out all the stops for this. The particle effects are just lovely. And these little petals that one can find on the floor, not only do they stack with one another like sea pickles or candles, they're directional. So they look particularly random when they fall around here. Oh, hello. Oh, do you like the flowers I've placed? Oh, that's charming. Here, have some. Are we going to get a baby bee? Are we going to get a baby bee? Yee! A baby bee! However, as I've been editing this video down, I've realised it's become rather long, so for now I'm going to call it there and split this update video into a few. Not in any particular order, I'll just explore the features when I come across them in the world. Much better. Okay, time to re-find that donkey of mine. I'll see you next time.